City of Stevens Point Diversity Group Meeting, recorded February 16, 2021.
Okay, I've got 4 o'clock. I suppose we can get started. I was really hoping that our Ryan member would be able to introduce himself. He emailed me this morning, mentioned that he had a work conflict when he got in, so he's not able to join us today. So we'll have to do it at the next meeting. But I think because the group is relatively new still, I'd like to go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves. And maybe a little something about you, just the members. This is not an audience participation meeting at this point. So I'll start out. I'm Mike Wiesa. I'm mayor of the city of Stevens Point. Pretty much lived here my whole life, and hope we can accomplish some more great things today. Rio, put you on the spot. You want to go next?
Sure. My name is Rio Greendeer. I've lived in Stevens Point my whole life, and I'm a student at SPASH.
Great. Officer Yang.
Hey everyone, my name is Officer Chi Yang. I have lived in Stevens Point for basically my whole life, and just came back after college, and now I'm an officer at the Stevens Point Police Department. I'm really excited on what we can accomplish in this group, and I'm looking to learn a lot more than I already have.
Thank you. Eric, you want to go, and then Morgan?
Yeah, my name is Eric Riskus. I'm the Independent Living Program Director at Mid-State Independent Living Choices. We're an agency for people with disabilities. And I've lived in Stevens Point for the last 12 years now. So I enjoy the community, and I enjoy the response that I've been seeing in trying to boost inclusivity, and excited to be a part of this committee to help bring forth some probable change.
Great, thank you. Morgan?
I'm Morgan Potter. I also work at Mid-State Independent Living Choices. I am back to Stevens Point, almost 2 years, but I lived here in college as well for 6.
Okay. Great. Raven?
Hi everyone, my name is Raven Knipple. I am a student at UWSP. Last year I was the student body vice president, and I still do work for student government this year. And I'm super excited to learn more and help the city in any way I can.
Excellent. Tamia?
Hi, I'm Tamia. I live in Stevens Point for the past 4 years. I am the admin of the Black Lives Matter group on Facebook. I'm just really excited to help the community any way I can with diversity and learn from each other.
Thank you. Idowu?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Idowu. I'm the Executive Director of the Stevens Point Housing Authority. So we are a public housing agency locally here for Stevens Point. And I'm new to Stevens Point. I've been here for a year now. I was born and raised actually in New York City. And I moved to Stevens Point for personal reasons, or Central Wisconsin for personal and professional reasons as well.
Excellent. And we don't have Tiffany Krieger, who has worked with Evergreen Community Initiatives, Tiffany's Closet, and a few other things. And as I mentioned, our newest member, Ryan Goskowitz, was not able to join us today. So that's the group for those who are visiting today. As a rule of Zoom etiquette, if you're not speaking, please keep yourself on mute. And if you have something that you want to interject, you can always raise your hand or virtual hand, get someone's attention, and we can get that taken care of. The first thing I want to talk about today was a purpose or a mission statement. And I put an example in the packet, and I wanted to kind of get everybody's feedback on that. I will, let's see if I can share this. There we go. So I modified it a little bit, and I just kind of want to get everybody's feedback on this. So it says, our mission is to move forward with conviction. Oops, where did it go? That is not what I want. Hang on one second. Got to get there again. There we go. Can everybody see that now? The mission statement? Yeah, good. All right. So our mission is to move forward with conviction and purpose on the formulation, implementation, and maintenance of a more inclusive and equitable Stevens Point by facilitating the integration of greater representation, fairness, belonging, and care into our policies, practices, protocols, and workplaces. And I tried to be as broad as I possibly could with the scope of work that we want to do, because we are such a diverse group. We are charged with trying to find solutions for all sorts of things: mental health issues, social equity, social justice, and really the goal would be to try and implement those practices into city policy, community initiatives, and kind of share those ideas with the whole community. So does anybody have any thoughts on things that we could change to improve this statement? The goal here is to make sure that our individual perspectives are represented to the best of our abilities. So I don't want this to be a one-man show by any means. So I'm really hoping for some feedback.
This is Eric.
Oh, mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Let's start with Eric. Go ahead.
Okay. This is Eric from Midstate. The one thing that I would recommend including in here would be the word community.
Okay. And where would we like to put that? The Stevens Point community by facilitating, perhaps?
I think so.
Okay.
Or after workplaces.
What does everybody think of that?
Yeah, another idea that I had, Mayor Weezer, was, is it just for Stevens Point or is it the surrounding areas as well? I know this is a City of Stevens Point initiative, but you know, because of Plover and all those surrounding neighborhoods, I don't know, in greater community or to include the surrounding communities as well could potentially be another idea.
Okay, and I like that idea, because even though you're right, we are a Stevens Point initiative, but I certainly wouldn't want to preclude anybody from outside the city from, taking our ideas and running with them, or taking suggestions, or even participating. So is it possible that by putting in that Stevens Point community, maybe we could put in area to make it to more receptive? So the Stevens Point area community. Does that look good?
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Yeah, that includes the surrounding neighborhoods as well.
Okay. Let's take this capital C off of there. To get the younger people involved, I want to make sure, there's a lot of big words here. I want to make sure that people are able to understand what our goal is. And maybe Rio or Tamia, do you have any thoughts on making this a better statement?
I think it sounds really good. I think the inclusion of the word community was a really good addition.
Okay.
And otherwise, I think it's really good.
Okay. Do you think we're hitting on all of the topics that we want to cover? Your individual goals for this group, does it hit on all those topics?
It does for me, yeah.
Okay. Tamia, anything to add there?
So I think you should put in greater representation and understanding fairness. So like it shows the community that we're understanding to what their issues are and in the differences.
Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another,
Actually,
another
I'm
idea.
sorry, go ahead.
Another
Tamia, go
idea
ahead.
I had was in terms of policies, practices, if there maybe the word initiatives can also be in there somewhere, just in case if there's different initiatives we're working on that is not a policy or practice or protocol. It's more of a
agree.
general term. Mhm.
I agree. Yeah, the initiatives are, it's something different than a policy, and that's absolutely correct. Protocols, same thing. They sound more formal.
Yeah.
I don't think that everything we do here, nor do I want it to be completely formal. So I like that idea. I'm sorry, Tamia, did you have anything to add on your thought?
I did.
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
think that maybe along with workplace include like schools or colleges, because we have lots of those, and just from a student perspective, that would be nice to see.
Okay. Let's take that.
Maybe like, yeah, educational institutions or
work in school environments.
yeah.
Or maybe the words educational settings.
That settings. I don't like the word work. If we're going to do that, maybe we should do employment in educational settings. Now, keeping in mind, of course, that we don't have, direct control over any form of employment other than, in this case, the city council would have to approve things to change our administrative policies. So there's oversight boards, but I think the facilitating that integration is helpful. We would help employers or educational institutions implement some of the suggestions if they choose to do so. How does that sound? Does anybody else have any additional thoughts on this? Look at us making headway. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and we are going to we're going to leave it that way for now. I'm going to send this back out to everybody once our meeting is over, just to give everybody a little more time to stew on it. And you can certainly send your thoughts if you have any, or we can wait till the next meeting. But I think this is a good interpretation of what we hope to accomplish as a group. So I thank you for that. The next item on that I wanted to talk about was preferred language or review of terms. And I just want to do that because I want to make sure that we're on the same page when we make some of these references. Does everybody have a copy of that agenda item? Let me see, I can go back here and get it. Let me do this. And this was just a small sample of thoughts that I had in regards to this. So let's go to here. After 9 months, 10 months of doing this, you think I'd be a little better at it. There we go. Okay, is everybody able to see that? Good. Why don't you give it a once over and let me know. I took some of this from the website, most of it actually, from the website listed there as kind of a starting point. This is by no means a recommendation, nor is it meant to be all inclusive. It's meant to just provide a starting point so we can talk about it and see where we want to go. We're gonna have to do something to loosen this group up a little bit. No, I get it. It's kind of a weird way to start off a whole group. Morgan, did you have your hand up for something?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm just taking a moment to read through the document again.
Gotcha. Yep. By all means. If you don't have a copy in your agenda, or if you didn't get the agenda downloaded, let me know and I'll provide that for you.
Reading through the document, this is Eric from Midstate, by the way. Reading through the document on our scope of things, I feel it's pretty inclusive. I can't speak for the rest of the group, but in regards to things like, disability, privilege, ableism, that all seems pretty accurate.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We got Tiffany joining us now. Hey, Tiff. Sorry, I wasn't really paying attention to the room as much as I should have, trying to share my screen and everything. So I apologize if you were sitting in there for a few minutes.
No worries.
We're right now looking at the definition of terms. And as I said, this is a starting point. It's not meant to be all inclusive. That's our job. Our job is to make sure that these terms are defined in the ways that we hope to define them.
This is Eric from Milk again. One of the questions that I have regarding this document is other than for edification and understanding some of these terms, what's the end result of this going to be? Is this something that we're going to share to the community as something that we've discussed? Who is the eventual audience for this?
So yes, it's meant to be shared with the community because, well, there's several members of the press in here right now, and I hope that when we talk about these things that the public is aware of those too, so they have an opportunity to provide feedback or at least an understanding. And that's really what the starting point is here is we want to make sure that everybody's using the same terms and understands what those terms are. And I'll give you an example as to why this kind of popped into my head. With recent political events on the national level, there were a lot of people throwing around words like communism and socialism, and not in a context that I think they understood what those words actually meant. So when we hear the word discrimination, do we all think the same thing? Because I don't think we do. Or if we hear privilege, does that mean the same thing to everybody? Does everybody understand what that word means when we use it? And again, I don't think we do. Some of them are a little simpler, like, the ableism and the, sexism, racism, those sorts of things. I think those are relatively easy for people to understand. But I don't know that some of these other ones necessarily are that well known in the community. So my goal would be to have a group like this agree on those definitions and then provide those to people so they know what we're talking about when, when they go back and either look at the meeting or show up at the next one, or when they hear it in casual conversation. When you see the word and the definition of, let's talk privilege. Does everybody agree with that definition? Or is there some way we can make that a little bit better and more understandable? I think we need an icebreaker. Go ahead, Rio.
I think that's a really good definition, especially in the last sentence where it says privilege is often invisible to those who have it. Mm-hmm. And that's like, I think like the main idea of it is because if you do have privilege, you're not going to know it. So to be aware that you do have it is going to make everything better for everybody. So Great. That's a good thing to have in there.
Excellent. That's really good insight. How about any of the other definitions? Discrimination, does that encompass? I mean, there's countless forms of discrimination, but does this kind of cover it?
This is Eric from Midstate. Discrimination, I think, also has like an even wider umbrella. I think this is good to summarize it into a paragraph, but just the understanding that discrimination might be a little bit more broad than what's listed in here.
Okay. Is there some way we could include something to let people know that it's this is a general statement, or is there some way we could identify that there's more to the definition and it's not just this series of words?
That's a good question.
I didn't say being part of this group was going to be easy. And no Officer Yang's participating because we can see his lips moving. Do you think there's any terms that we might need to add? Because this is just a small list.
Mayor Weeza, I have a kind of a question. I know the heading of this document is social justice definitions, and going back to our mission statement, including the understanding part of it. I think a big thing, especially for younger people, not just younger people, but at the university, there's a big thing we're experiencing right now is an increase in mental health needs and desires. And I think that's becoming less stigmatized, more talked about. But I think the more common ones like anxiety, depression, those kind of things that maybe people don't understand what exactly that means. And I know that kind of doesn't go with the social justice definition theme of that, but maybe a separate document or something like that to incorporate more mental health terms to help the public understand what people go through.
Certainly we could change the definition or the title. I called it social justice definitions because that's what the website that I started from called it. We could call it, we could just call it definitions.
I mean, obviously it's up to the group. Like I didn't mean to derail or anything like that, but I think if we want to incorporate mental health explanations or advocacy in this group,
I like that idea because it should be all inclusive. So maybe we can just call it definitions and add terms and definitions for anxiety, depression, any other mental health issues or any other words that we think might warrant a public definition.
I think maybe adding the word crisis, that is something that a lot is pretty broad, but is usually a pretty important word, especially when you're talking about mental health.
Okay.
Even stress, I think, could be a definition there too.
Okay, good. I'm making notes here.
And then even if we're talking about the title, you know, instead of social justice definitions, what if it's terms and definitions of discrimination?
Okay, but are all these talking about discrimination? I don't know that defining stress or a crisis would necessarily refer to discrimination. How about if we do terms and definitions, or no, does anybody have any other thoughts on the title of the page?
This is not necessarily about the title of the page, but another mental health differentiation that might be important is the difference between suicide ideation and self-harm. I know for a lot of people, they lump those together and they're not necessarily the same.
Okay.
For this document specifically, I think that social justice definitions is a good title, but maybe if there were other documents that focused on like other topics, like another document for like mental health definitions,
Okay.
just so that it's not so much to look at and you can kind of look at them through different themes.
See Morgan nodding, so maybe that's the route we go, because it looks like a lot of the things that were suggested to add are almost exclusively related to that mental health factor. So does the group generally think that's okay? We'll keep social justice definitions here, and before our next meeting, compile a mental health definitions form. I see some heads nodding, so good, thumbs up. All right, so we will do that. Gotcha. Okay, anything else that anybody wants to bring up on this topic? And these are all going to be working documents for a while, so feel free, if something comes to you over the next couple of days, we can you can shoot an email to myself or the group, or we can wait till the next meeting and talk about it. Officer Yang, I'm wondering if we might be able to get some assistance from your office in regards to some of those mental health definitions. I know you have several people in the department that are trained. There may be some sort of existing document already that we could use as a starting point. Would you be able to take a look at that and see if there's something that would go for anybody? Of course, if you have a starting point, we can throw those together. But I know that we've had specific training on mental health issues at PD.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of it on the top of my head, but I can ask the other officers. I'm sure there are pamphlets and other definitions that we can get right off. There should be some at the PD.
Okay.
And I'll provide that whenever I get it.
Great. Yeah, no, that would be very helpful. I think Ratzik right now is the primary contact on that, right?
Yep, he's our CIT officer right now, so he should have many resources that I can provide.
Great. Yeah, I know Christy was heavily involved too, and she might have some information. Well, good. We'll get some of that together and put that on the list of things to do for the next meeting. The next item that I wanted to talk about, this one kind of came in at the last minute, so I didn't have a whole lot of background on it, but Governor Evers has released, I think his budget has been released already today. And in there were some recommendations from his Caregivers Task Force, and that's included on page 2 of your packet. I'm also sharing it on the screen now with a couple of recommendations. I'm wondering if, what we think of these, and if it's warranted, that could be our first official lobby item, is to write a letter of support from this group endorsing the recommendations from the governor's Caregiver Task Force, which I believe are still included in the biennial budget. Does anybody have any thoughts there?
Just from reading from the list, I think it's a great idea, especially, for sometimes caretakers aren't being taken care of most of the time. So that's my.
Good. Any other comments? What do we think? Is this something we want to support, or, and we don't have to take any action on it, but if it's something, go ahead.
Is there any like a link that we could, with more information of the Caregivers Task Force? Just where we could find out more information about this initiative?
Sure, you could probably just Google it. That's probably the easiest way. But if you have any questions after you do that, I can certainly put us in touch with our state representatives for clarification. I don't know what was in the final biennial budget because it was just supposed to be introduced today. And quite frankly, I don't know that it even was introduced today. This was one of the initiatives that was supposed to be included in the budget, and I believe it is. I don't have a 100% certainty on that. Is this something we want to hold off on till next time as well? Because I think we have a little bit of time if we want to do that.
I don't know anything on the topic, so I can't let you know either way. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I did. Exactly with Tiffany. I just it seems like a great initiative. I just wanted to just read more about it and just find out more information. But
okay, fair enough.
And so, this is Eric, and this is actually one of the topics that the independent living centers in the state of Wisconsin have been advocating for a while, is to help increase the pay for the personal care workers and making sure that enough resources are there to support them.
Okay, good. And as we talked about at our last meeting, not every topic is going to be directly impactful to every one of us. But the goal is here to collaboratively and collectively, make these recommendations. So in this case, you're right. Tiffany probably doesn't have a lot of experience in this, nor does her area really need to have that sort of experience. We kind of rely on each other to bring those perspectives to the table. So Eric, did you want to talk a little bit more about that? It seems you've got at least a little bit of a handle on it.
Just long story made short, we've just been advocating that the personal care workers in the state of Wisconsin should get that increase, just because of the amount of work that they're putting in, the hazards that are provided with what they do. They're essentially, someone else's life is in their hands for that time that they're in there. So I don't have too much other than that, but this has been an area that we've been advocating for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it talks about, the increases in wages, but it also talks about allowing more work hours, protected leave, those sorts of things. Most of those other items are something that many employers are providing already, but it's not universal. And that's really what we're looking for here, is to make sure that everybody, all of those workers, are treated fairly and have the same resources and benefits, I guess, that many others share. So if we need to, why don't we take a little bit of time and investigate it a little bit more. You could certainly just shoot me an email with your thoughts. And what I'm going to do in the meantime is draw up a letter of support that we'll hold off on until I hear back from the membership to see if that's something they want to get behind. I'll send out a copy of the letter and you can all review that before we send it off. Or again, if we choose not to send it, we can certainly do that as well. Reasonable? Okay. And then the last thing that we had actually came as a suggestion from last month's meeting. Idowu contacted me, and this seems like a pretty good no-brainer to recognize all of the different months. And I'm sure there's probably websites out there that have all of these, but the ones on the list pertain to things that I think we're charging our group with. It's not all inclusive right now, and I'm just curious if there's anything we could add or change and put this out. And the goal here would be each month not only recognize that at the beginning of our meeting, but if there is a speaker that can show up on one of these topics, one or more of these topics, I think it would be an advantage to the group to try and get some feedback and actually participate in those awareness months. What does the group think?
I'm always in support of getting, professionals to come in and speak on certain topics too, just to, boost our own education on some of these topics too. So I would be in support of looking for potential speakers. And even if we have, for instance, Disability Awareness Month, with the resources that I have at my fingertips, I could help look for speakers on that.
And that is absolutely the goal here, because I am not as well versed as you are in your individual background. So I would be looking to you for advice on who we might be able to contact to get speakers. Tamia, did you have a question?
So are we looking for speakers like in our community for it, or are we reaching outward to like different like areas for speakers?
I think we could reach out to different areas for speakers. I know everybody here's got connections. So I'd be looking for us to use those resources and those connections to find people who are willing to share their thoughts, ideas, and insight on each of these topics each month.
Follow-up question to that. This is Eric from Milk. Is there a budget, or is it a budget of please help?
It's a budget of please help right now.
Okay.
That being said, if we made things community events, I would not be opposed to soliciting for donations, to try and get that speaker some compensation.
Something else that we could do to go along with the recognition of the different months is like what we were doing with the social justice definitions, is to have more documents with some other definitions that correlate with the months.
Okay.
I like that idea. And actually a follow-up that I would have to that too, is to say that in part of that list, if there are resources that we can connect people in the community to related to what that, that awareness month is, for an example, again, with Disability Awareness Month, maybe we have like a few different disability related organizations that we reach out to. For Women's History Month, maybe there's a few different organizations that benefit women that we could include in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are great ideas. Eric, the one that just popped into my head with Disability Awareness Month, I've attended, as you know, the event that Milk puts on, and it was quite eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
They allow you to kind of experience what people with disabilities experience. You sit in a wheelchair and you try and get up a ramp that's too steep, or open a door, get in and out of a parked car. I've done the same thing with the Lincoln Center. They have I'm going to get the phrase wrong, but it's basically a dementia simulator that they put you in an environment that simulates some of the different forms of dementia, and you have to do routine, simple tasks like setting a table or counting coins, and it's extremely challenging. And I think that if we could coordinate some of those events within the months that we are raising awareness and open those up to the community, I think that would be a pretty good educational tool for those who choose to participate, because I can tell you that each and every one of those experiments was pretty eye-opening for me.
Mike, I can also reach out to the Diversity and College Access coordinator on campus. I know that they have tried to get speakers to come and talk on different social justice issues, and try to get people from surrounding areas of Stevens Point. And I can contact them about speakers that could potentially come and speak or hold events on campus too, and then get back to you with a list of names.
That would be absolutely wonderful. And of course, we can do it through Zoom. They could even do a video presentation if that's something that they felt more comfortable with.
I can also work with the contact a lot of student orgs. I know some student orgs try to do, especially if it's a recognition month, try to do events similar to that, and see if we can either promote it together or open it up to the public or something like that to get those kind of events highly attended in a safe manner, of course.
Right. Good. Thank you very much, Raven. That's excellent.
There are also there may be some community groups that already have things going on during these months. So I am part of another community group, and we're putting together mental health awareness activities for the month of May. So some of the stuff might already be happening, and we can just spotlight it and talk about it some more.
Absolutely. And if there's anything I can do to help facilitate that, by all means, let me know.
Yeah. And it will be, in addition to like recognizing this month with the definitions, along going with maybe like a brief history, because I think the purpose of why I suggested this with the recognition is to more for like cultural awareness, because I think we all live in our respective, whether race, gender, disabled, non-disabled, like LGBTQ or non-LGBTQ, we have a general understanding, but if you're not directly in that community, you may not know. So I think like a brief history of like, how the month started. It doesn't have to be, a whole history lesson, but just something brief, because I think the whole idea is for people to just understand other types of people, whether by race, whether by disability, just a little bit better. So I think that should accompany definitions as well, just like a brief history of why these months are recognized in during these particular times.
Great. No, that's wonderful. I think that's a great idea, because a lot of times you don't understand how things got started, and that's going to help us. So I'm making notes on all of this stuff. And
another thing, I'm not as familiar, but I know in the Hmong community, they have like special celebrations as well. And I'm not, personally, I'm not as familiar with it, but maybe if someone in the Hmong community, because I know there's a large percentage of Hmong people, and figuring out like which months they celebrate, and that could also be an opportunity. I'm sure they probably have a lot of events taking place already, so that could be also another thing that we could spotlight as well.
Okay, that could be very helpful.
Something else and I don't really know how attainable this is, especially this time of year, but to be a little bit more mindful of like COVID would be to have like interchangeable signs at like maybe Buchholz or other like bigger public places that can each month display like the history of the month and why we're recognizing it, and just to have that so people can see it like when they're out in a park or just out in public.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a really good idea too.
And that actually, on that idea, that might be something great to post in the visitor center downtown.
Sure, we could work with that. Maybe what we could do is generate some flyers, rather than having big signs or something in parks, maybe we could generate flyers, and as a group, we could go and they could put them up in business windows. We could put them up here at City Hall. If there's message boards at grocery stores, I know there's one at the dog park. We could put those up and get a little more exposure probably than just a sign or two in the parks. What do you think of that?
Is
I
there
think that's
an
a really,
option- oh, go ahead.
I think that's a really smart idea to spread the word. And also I'm in a group at my school, and so I could definitely get those distributed through SPASH.
Great.
And I drive all over the city, so I mean, I could drop flyers off or at schools or, like Ben Franklin, PJ's, elementary schools, just drop by and drop them off whenever,
Excellent. Actually, what we could have you do is make them and fold them up in paper airplanes, and as you're driving by, you can shoot them out the window of the car. Just,
Only it was that easy, right?
No, I like that. We've got a built-in delivery system.
Is there any way that this could also be posted on the City of Stevens Point social media?
Absolutely. Our website, our social media accounts, we can put all that material up there, and that's the same thing we're going to do with as much of the group that we need to as well. Is promoting that on our social media page. I'll do it on my personal page, of course, and just trying to get the word out. And that's really the goal of these recognition months, is to raise awareness and to educate people. So any way that we can do that, I think is helpful. I like the flyers idea. I'll even see about getting some signs. We have a couple of locations where we change the banners. I know there's one out on the east side where we put up different banners in that small park, McLaughlin Park, I think it is, that has the Welcome to Stevens Point sign. So we could do something like that on the entrance signs to the city. Maybe just May is Mental Health Month, and then in addition to that, we could do the handout sheets or the flyers.
Would that be like just a this month is this awareness month, or would it be kind of like having like a interesting fact of whatever month it is, awareness month it is, I guess.
Right. So I think, at least in my mind, when I was hearing about this, is we would have a flyer saying, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and then maybe have some of those definitions and how the month of May became Mental Health Awareness Month, and just a kind of an informational flyer. So not just a big sign that says May is Mental Health Month, but provide resources, whether that's definitions or maybe a personal story if someone wanted to share it, to raise awareness and educate the people that are reading that flyer. Oh, hang on, I'm going to take this one. Hey, Katrina, this is Mike. I'm in the middle of a meeting right now, but it's very important that you called because there were some questions in regards to the governor's Caregiver Task Force, and if that was actually included in the budget. There were some recommendations there. Do you know yet? Okay. Tonight it is. Okay, great. And that's the only reason I picked up the phone, because we all wanted to know. And if that's okay, I'll give you a call back a little later. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Bye-bye. That was Katrina Shanklin calling me back on a question that I had earlier. So they don't have the official document yet. They're getting that later this evening, she said. So we don't know which of those recommendations were specifically included, but we will by tomorrow. So I'll keep you posted on that. That's the only reason I took the phone call, is because I knew Katrina was going to give me an answer. All right. Any other thoughts about the flyers, handouts, speakers? As I said, I'm going to need your help on this. Any other thoughts in regards to the monthly awarenesses and or recognitions? Is there anything we forgot that you're aware of? And just like everything
one of
else.
the
Go
questions that I had was in regards to the months. So I know October is listed as Disability Awareness Month, but that can get, if we, how specific do we want to get to? Because if you start including specific disabilities, I mean, sometimes you can get upwards of like 3 or 4 a month. And then there's ones like Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, which is like ironically May 15th through the 16th. So it like pops up in the middle of the month when you least expect it. As someone with Tourette's, I always found that part humorous. But the point being too that there, what are we looking for? More of like a general listing, or how, I guess again, like how specific do we want to get?
Well, I think I'm going to piggyback on what Rio said earlier. We don't want something that's too overwhelming. We don't want to be recognizing 6 different things, 8 different things every month and getting down into very specifics.
Right.
At least not at this point. And since we're probably only meeting once or maybe twice a month, I don't know that we'd find enough speakers to cover each of the topics. So I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that if we stay a little bit general, at least initially, we'll be okay, and kind of group things together. All of the mental health issues, things like that. Tamia, question or comment?
So what about putting flyers in the buyer's guide?
I don't know. Let me take a look at that. I know we have a representative here from the City Times. I don't know what the charge is for that, but we may be able to afford something like that. Let me look into that and see what we can come up with. Perfect. Anything else? Okay, good. Well, I want to thank you all again for coming out and participating. And I am going to make a list of the notes and I'll send it out to the group just to give us an idea of what we covered. And as always, if any thoughts pop into your head between now and the next time we meet, by all means, feel free to reach out, shoot me a text, email, phone call, whatever it happens to be. And we'll compile a list for our next meeting. The Tuesdays at 4 o'clock still working for everybody? And I know Ryan was the only one that had kind of an issue with it and he thought he could work around it, but then he got to work today and says, nope, it's crazy, I can't make it. So we're going to hope for a better opportunity in a couple of weeks when we meet again. All right, well then I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you all again for participating and coming, and thank you to the members of the public and the media that showed up. We certainly appreciate your involvement, and have a great Fat Tuesday, I guess. See you later.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.